Welcome to the Lowcountry Revolutionaries, the podcast that dives deep into the heart of Charleston, South Carolina's vibrant entrepreneurial scene. I'm your host, Bill Bellott, founder of Veritas Exoscience, and each week we're spotlighting the boldest innovators from the Chucktown startup community. These are the visionaries pouring their heart and soul into the businesses that are transferring Charleston into a global hub of creativity and American ingenuity. Get ready for raw, real conversations with the trailblazers shaping our city's future. Let's dive in. I would like to welcome Peter Ricciardi. He's the author of Mind Shift, Profit Lift. He's a keynote speaker, a business advisor, and a profitability strategist. After completing the University of Pennsylvania at 19 and teaching economics, he chose a harder path. He became the youngest Burger King franchisee in company history and transformed the food and beverage profitability at one of America's most successful ski areas. He later led and launched a turnaround of professional hockey in a city where prior franchises had failed. Welcome, Peter. How you doing?
Very good. I appreciate this opportunity I appreciate being in Charleston, South Carolina. I was actually brought here by the NBA.
Really?
To run the G League team at the time called the D League team with Commissioner Stern, and so I've had a pretty interesting background. I've spent the last 15 years working primarily with Lowcountry startups, which is one of the reasons that I am here.
Nice.
So I am very appreciative of Chucktown startups, and I'm very appreciative of this podcast. I think it's really important.
Thank you. So you did professional hockey, you've done NBA, you ran Burger King franchises, you've done a lot of things. So, and you've written this book, which is pretty exciting. So I imagine you've kind of tried to distill all of these things that you've kind of learned into the book. What's kind of like the major things people should be looking for in this?
Well, first of all, I've spent a lot of my time as an entrepreneur, and then much of my time working with entrepreneurs, helping them be it startups or existing companies. And so somewhere along the line, I figured I would write a book, and just decided, in the last 6 months that I guess the time was now.
Right.
And I wrote the book, and one of the challenges was, what was the focus of the book going to be, and what was the title of the book going to be? Right. And the focus of the book is what the title says, which is Mind Shift, Profit Lift. And the really focus there is mind shift. Cool. The whole book is about how to look at your business, be it a startup or a mature business, through a different lens, through a lens that allows you to think a little counterintuitively, a little different than you've been taught along the way. So the book is designed to make you reconsider what you're doing and what you've done. And so far the response has been really good. I mean, really good. So I've been excited.
Yeah, you were telling me it's like you had the Kindle version out on Amazon. It already went up to the top of the list in sort of like the entrepreneur space. That's amazing. Like, that's really great.
It was number one new release in retail business. It was in the top 5 in hospitality.
Nice.
And the top 10 in entrepreneurship.
Wow.
And it's still hanging in. And now, as of this week, we have released the paperback. We're contemplating a hardcover. And interestingly enough, I've had all kinds of requests for an audiobook. Apparently, busy business people like you and I like audiobooks.
Yeah.
So the response has been great. And part of it is like this conversation we're having today. The book is written like a conversation. Yeah. The book is not a heavy lecture. It's not, I've been there. I've taught, I've been a student. This is just me and the reader in a conversation, and one that's designed to get them to be a little uncomfortable, but to open their mind, because I think a mind shift is necessary, particularly in an environment where the world is changing about every 15 minutes.
Right. Yeah. With AI and all the other things going on, the world is changing every 15 minutes. And I was reading like a little excerpt from your book, and you were talking about, doing certain things and then profit will follow versus like focusing on making a profit. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Thank you. That is where, and that's great. That's exactly where I would have wanted to start. There's 2 really early premises before we get into lifting profit. And the first one is, And this is really, I'm volunteering right now as a mentor at the Harvard Entrepreneur Center.
Oh, cool.
I did a little bit with them 5 years ago, and I'm doing much more now. And I would tell you that something I knew I would always make if I wrote a book was, your business is not about you. And as core, an obvious value that seems to be, or an obvious proposition, it's really very far from the way most people look at their businesses.
Right.
Most people look at their businesses like it's their business.
Right.
And you're the last person that matters in your business. The first person that matters in your business is your customer.
No. Nice.
And the second person that matters in your business is your employee. Right. Because if your employee doesn't translate your vision, your customer doesn't get what they need. So if you go back to customer being number one, if employee is not number two, you're out. And then if you're a startup, you got to remember that your investor is somewhere in the top of this list.
Yeah.
So if ironically, we go into business for ourselves thinking it's about us, and we're like last on the list. And that's part of the mind shift that I think every company needs to engage in, even if they're a startup,
right,
or if they're not.
Right.
And now what you just said, here's the part. There are many things that people go, huh, Pete, you're kidding me. Well,
yeah,
exactly. You're not in business. You're not in business to make a profit.
Really?
You are in business to meet and exceed the expectations of your customer.
Oh, wow.
If you do that, you're going to make a profit.
Right.
If you do that really well, you're going to make a lot of profit. But if you don't do that really well, forget profit. You're not even going to be viable.
Right. Right.
And I'll give you an example of that. Statistically, obviously, it's very hard to succeed as a startup. We're not scaring anybody. We're speaking the truth.
It's true.
But 40% of the startups that fail because they built the company for themselves.
Right.
They had an idea. And they go, we need this. They didn't do any research. They didn't determine whether or not the world really needed it. They came with an idea that they thought the world needed. Trust me, I've done it.
Yeah.
And I paid the price along the way. As much of the book is about the prices I've paid. But the answer is, it's not about what you think you need. And the last thing you want to do is ask your mother and your friends, because whatever you say, they're going to go, wow, what a great idea.
What a great idea. Yes.
So without market research, I tell people, there's a niche and a hole. And a niche, they look pretty similar. Boy, this doesn't exist, right? Now that's a niche, or it doesn't exist because other people thought of it. They put money in it, and it's a hole.
Right. Right.
And people go, how do you find out the difference between a niche and a hole? That's pretty easy. If you do it my way, you do research.
Right.
And you really drill down until you figure out it's really a niche.
Yeah.
Most people don't. Most people launch, and they find out because if you keep throwing money at it, and the money never comes back, guess what? You found a hole.
Right. Right.
And not a niche.
Right.
And not a niche. And so one of the original mind shifts is to flip everything around and realize that we're not going to worry about, everybody's talking about, can I scale this? Can I sell this? Can I, how quickly can I unload this? The problem is, first we ought to have a this.
Yes.
And the this ought to be something that meets someone's expectations and makes them happy. I've worked on the franchise side a bunch. I worked with one franchise company. They built themselves to franchise.
Oh, yeah.
In other words, they started, you really got to build yourself to be a viable business.
Right.
And then you got to duplicate it in multiple different kinds of environments.
Yeah.
Before you go out and say, I got a franchise. First, let's get a viable business. What do you think?
Yeah. It sounds like common sense. It's like, well, of course you should be addressing a need, or how are you going to make any money? But when you start a business, it's like, for some reason that kind of goes out the window. It's like, oh, we don't need to do that.
And people, when they first read the book, they go, who doesn't concentrate on the customer? Well, the answer is everybody.
Everybody.
And in today's world, I'll give you an example. I've got a friend who called a local chamber of commerce.
Yeah.
Right. What more an important organization? He wanted to join.
Right.
Guess what? He got put in voicemail.
Of course.
I think about that now.
Yeah.
There are 40 people sitting around the building in the office at desks with a phone.
Right.
Did anyone think maybe on the fourth ring, if the front desk doesn't pick it up,
somebody should pick it up? Right. Yeah.
Nope.
Yeah.
Nobody. Shouldn't you pick it up and go, Chamber of Commerce? Somebody says, I'm interested in becoming a member. First of all, you ought to. That's why you're there.
Yeah, that's why you're there.
The second thing, And the second thing you ought to be doing is you ought to say, what can I get you? We'll have the right person call you back.
Right.
I mean, nope. How come when you go to the bank,
Oh, yeah.
the best space says reserved for bank president?
Right.
The last I looked, I'm the guy paying the bank president's salary.
Yeah.
It ought to say reserved for customer. Bank
Right.
president should be parking
in the back
300 yards away.
Yeah.
He's not. But we don't think like that. We don't think about that. For example, when you think about profitability, you lean on your accountant. Like your accountant knows more about your pricing strategy and your costs than you do.
Right.
They do not. You don't even care if they're an expert in your field. They do not. And if they do, shame on you because you haven't done enough work.
True.
Because there's no way in the world that you shouldn't know your business better than anybody. You should know your business better than everybody.
Right.
So my answer to this is you probably are not making the customer the priority that I would tell you should make the customer.
Yeah.
And does that shock you or does that make sense?
It does shock me because, I'm kind of like I'll say in the nerd geek science space. And, I still remember like a lot of things from people like Steve Jobs, which especially since there's a lot of IT folks I'll say in the Charleston area, probably they've heard a lot of things that came out of Steve Jobs. And Steve Jobs was famous for saying, I'll tell the customer what they need, and it was like a different kind of thing. And he was successful.
But actually, there's a quote in the book, because there's quotes in every chapter, not from me. Henry Ford said, if I asked the people what they wanted, they would have said faster horses.
Right.
Okay. I'm not disagreeing that you shouldn't lead your customer to a solution.
That's smart.
You just got to identify the fact that the customer is going to want your solution. If you think the customer is going to want your solution based on your research, by all means, it's our job to subtly lean them there. I'm not saying we should let the customer run our company. What I'm saying, though, is that every time you make a decision, and I don't care what it is, okay, if it's hiring a custodial staff, it ought to be because that group is going to make your building better for your employees and your customers.
Right.
In other words, if you start there,
right,
as compared to start with someplace else, and people don't start there. And you talk about tech. When's the last time you could get a hold of somebody if something didn't work? Now that's okay for Amazon, and that's okay for Yahoo, and that's okay for Google.
Right.
I'm not sure it's okay for a new software company.
No.
Who's launching with no customers.
Right. Yeah.
I'm not sure that.
And that makes a lot of sense. It's like that's a great distinction between, trying to address what the customer needs versus just, hey, putting yourself and your ego in front of everything else because it's your company. So that makes a lot of sense, Peter.
It's really hard not to do that.
Right.
I mean, it is really hard and it's really hard not to be the customer.
Yeah.
But I always remind people they've got to be the customer, but they can't be themselves as the customer.
Okay.
What I mean by that is that get on your retail platform on Shopify.
Right.
Okay, and actually see how easily you can or cannot buy what you want.
Right.
You can and cannot ask a question, and then you'll figure out why cart abandonment is at ridiculous numbers.
Yeah.
We make it really hard.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to give them your life story before you can find out how much it's going to cost to ship.
Right.
You basically got to go through everything, including your credit card and all the rest, before they let you know, oh, the shipping's going to be $40. So if you know it was going to be $40,
I wouldn't even
have spent the whole day doing it.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? But part of it is we're hoping we can trick the people into figuring out that no, we've kept their subscription service going for the next 4 months. Even though they didn't know they had it going for the next 4 months.
Right.
If you flip it all around and you say to yourself, what if I could delight customers?
Yes.
What if customers really were excited? Because the one thing you and I know, and it's a big part of the book, is that the dissatisfied customer today has a really loud voice.
Yes.
I mean, they've got megaphones the size of New Jersey now. I mean, in the old days, you treated a customer bad, no one knew.
Yeah.
I mean, so you got to satisfy customers.
Right. And as a customer, I buy stuff here and there. It's easy to walk away from stuff. Just because I put it in a cart or whatever, if I get to something that causes me any kind of grief, like exactly the stuff you're talking about, having to provide too much information, that will trigger me. Having to pay like huge amounts of shipping where it's like, that just doesn't make sense. And it could be anything. It's easy to just walk away from that purchase.
Well, cart abandonment, if you could sell half the people that went to your cart, you'd be making tons of money. People go to your cart, and then immediately when they leave your cart, you say, "Oh, here's 30% off."
Yes.
Come back to the cart.
Why didn't you do that in the first place? Yeah,
right. It's even more insulting.
Right.
But we're in a situation where we have to realize that if we're going to be more viable as a startup, or we're going to lift our profits as an existing company, it's not about doing more.
Right.
It's about thinking differently.
Yeah.
Everybody's in today's world, doing more is not going to be your solution. As I said, there's a quote in the book from in every chapter, there's a quote from someone else, all kinds of people, from philosophers to ancient philosophers to current business people to business superstars to country music singers.
Right.
And one of the quotes is from Henry David Thoreau, who says, "Ants are busy." Being busy is.
Yeah.
Being busy does not mean you're on your way to success.
Yeah, and I've heard a lot of people talk about this busy, and they talk about it in a lot of fancy ways. Like I've heard, a famous business commenter, you probably know who this is, talk about signal to noise, and talk about like
right.
examples of famous people like, oh, they have very high signal to noise, and that's why they're so successful, and blah blah blah. I'm like, and I think it boils down to kind of knowing where to focus your time and where to say no. But tell me, what do you think about that? You've probably heard these things.
Yeah, I think the single most important thing, and I've been saying this for 30 years, is to identify what business you're in. And people, it seems obvious, but people don't really understand. For example, the big rage. Have you ever been to a Buc-ee's?
Sure. I haven't been personally. I've had friends, they go there and it's like they send me enough pictures, I feel like I've personally gone,
Well, I've been, we have an RV. I've been all over the country, 33,000 miles worth in the last 5 years, and been to many of Buc-ee's. Buc-ee's is not in the gas station business.
Right.
But even though the primary thing it sells is gas, Buc-ee's is in the business of, wow, you've been driving all day.
Yeah.
And you really want someplace to just kind of have an oasis, like in the
Yeah.
desert.
Yeah.
And when you go there, the bathrooms are super clean.
Exactly.
You know that they're going to be slicing the brisket in front of you. You are going there because it's solving a problem, which is we're all anxious to get the heck out of the car.
Right.
Because there's a gas station across the street that's 5 cents cheaper and no one's there.
Yeah.
It's because they know what they're selling. You're not selling a product or a service. You're selling a solution. You're selling a way to make William happier, or William's got problems. William's got a problem because it's taking him all day to do his books. Right. So I'm going to make his life better. I'm not selling him accounting software. I'm selling him peace of mind, or I'm selling him an extra Saturday because he doesn't work the extra day.
Exactly.
But people don't understand that. They actually think that, we're selling them a widget.
Yeah.
We're not selling them a widget. And if you're in the commodity business, meaning you're selling a thing, that's a problem, because I got to tell you, in a world of Costco, in a world of Amazon, in a world of Walmart, if all you are is a commodity, I don't like your odds of being here in a month. Nevertheless, 5 years.
Yeah.
Because they'll outbuy you, they'll outsell you, they'll underprice you for the next 6 months. I mean, so it really, part of the problem that people have is they don't understand the business they're in. They're in the business of solving someone's problems. Yeah. Like, why do we pay so much? You're talking about iPhones. Why do we pay so much more to buy? I have an iMac, an iPhone.
Right, me too.
Everything. It has I in front of it.
Yeah.
And the answer is because we think that they are taking us to tomorrow.
Right.
Like, we're not going to Disney to be on a ride. We're going to Disney because we think for 4 days the kids are going to think they're in another land, and you're going to think that it's an experience of magic. It's not that, because you can get a ride at a local carnival when it comes in. That's not why you're doing it.
Yeah.
And so I think people have got their mind in the wrong place.
Yeah.
The same thing holds true. The same thing holds true for pricing.
Yeah.
One of the most controversial parts of the book, I remember being back at Penn back in the day, and we talked about price.
Yeah.
And a lot of what's in the book, I first resisted.
Right.
And one of the things I learned back in the day was that price has nothing to do with your costs.
Huh.
And everybody looks at me like,
that's
Pete, you're the
weird.
craziest man in America. You're the craziest man in America.
Right.
You go into a place and I went to a pharmacy one time and they were selling all these goods besides prescriptions,
Yeah.
and the items are $11.27 and $48.16 and
Right.
$3.12. And so I asked the pharmacist and he said, well, my accountant told me, that I've got to get a 28% margin or a 47% margin. So I buy it for $1.11 and I multiply that by 1.27 and I come up with,
and that's
I come up with 173.22.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, you and I know that if it was 173.22 or 174.95,
yeah,
we're going to buy the product.
Right.
Or not. But that $1.63 is not going to impact whether we buy the product.
Right.
In reality, though, price has to do with one thing and one thing only. And that is what's the maximum number William will pay.
Yeah.
And feel like he got his value.
Right.
And is willing to walk away and say, I feel good. I'd do that again. Or I tell my friend.
Yeah.
Or I stretched, but it was worth it.
Yeah.
That's the number. And if that number is $1.25 and you paid $1.25, then guess what? You can make it all you want, $2.50 or $174.13. It doesn't matter.
Right.
What really matters is the problem is you may not have a match there. You may not have a business.
Yeah.
Because what William's willing to pay and be happy doesn't work for you.
Yeah.
So you know what you got to do at that point? You got to figure out how to get a better product that costs you less.
Yep.
Or you got to figure out how to bundle it with something else. But you can't just make a number up.
Yeah. It does. And you're exactly right. It's the value. It's like I bought something recently and it was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm going to spend this amount of money on it. But when I got it and it did what it was supposed to do, I was like, it was worth every penny. And it's
right.
like, and that's the kind of feeling you kind of want to get with every purchase, right?
But how much of you're talking about a mind shift? How many decisions are the people out there who are listening to this, startup or mature business, making based on a spreadsheet and based on their accountant?
Right.
Most.
Everybody.
Yeah, and when you mind shift Pete's way, you don't start there. You start with one place. Am I making for a happier customer?
Right.
If I'm not making for a happier customer, you got a short-term solution. Maybe you have a short-term solution. You may not have any solution. I mean, if it doesn't solve the customer's problem at a price he's willing to pay or she's willing to pay, you don't have a viable business.
So let me ask you. So Peter, but you're making like a great point. But I'm going to ask sort of like a implementation question. So I need to know what the customer's willing to pay. What do they think they're going to get as value? What's a good way to do that? Is it go out, talk to them in person, market surveys? How do you implement that idea?
Well, first and foremost, common sense will win a lot of the time.
Good.
And secondarily, research is a really important piece of all of this. Mm. So one of the things you've got to figure out is what are you doing that your competitor isn't doing? Okay. And everybody, as a chapter in the book, people say, well, I don't have any competitors. I can't tell you the number of clients of mine, startups in particular. I don't have any competitors.
Right.
No one's doing what I'm doing. The closest Mexican restaurant is 30 miles away. Well, you know what? Last I looked at Publix had Taco Tuesday and exactly. I can go to Publix and create Mexican food. I can also say, I want Mexican, but I'm willing to have Italian today.
Right.
So this concept that you have no competitor is absurd.
Right.
So one of the things you've got to figure out is what are you competing against? Mm. In other words, if you knew what you're competing against and you knew, in other words, if you can solve a problem, for example, if you can come up with better software to run your podcast.
Right.
Okay. You need to know as the person who's selling that software, there's a threshold here where the gain is not enough.
Right.
You're not going to pay triple. You're not going to pay triple to make your podcast 10% better.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
And so when you engage, Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, that's exactly, it's like, I have software, this like really hits home to me. It's like, I have this software. I think it cost me like $30-$40, but I could pay $500 a year for a subscription service and get a slightly better audio quality than I have now. And I'm like, it's not worth it. It's not worth it,
Because at the end of the day, unless your audio quality is inferior for your customer,
right?
And your customer's not me, it's the listener. Unless it's inferior for the listener, if it's only marginally better,
yeah,
the answer is you're making a buying decision. But if you start out with the customer
mm-hmm.
and you say to yourself, I'm dealing with the highest end podcaster,
yeah,
and him being as good as the next highest end podcaster matters, then part of the buy is not just that you've got software, but you've got software that elevates that person's status.
right.
So you're not just selling software, you're selling status elevation.
Right.
That's what I mean. It's about what are you selling? And people don't really understand what they're selling. And one of the things we talk about in the book is everybody's convinced if you have the best product that you're going to win.
Right.
You mentioned I was a Burger King franchisee, and that dozen years I was a Burger King franchisee, there was 1 million studies taken about who had the best hamburger in fast food.
Yeah.
And every year, Wendy's and Burger King alternated.
Right.
Who had the best burger?
Right.
And every one of those 12 years, McDonald's kicked our butt and did 2.5 times as much sales as we did.
Yeah.
Because it turned out that when people went to McDonald's, they were not buying the burger as much as they were buying convenience. They knew it would always be the same.
Same, yep.
They knew that their kids would be happy.
Right.
They thought that it would go faster.
Right.
They didn't have to think twice because there was going to be one on the corner.
Right.
They knew it would be open longer.
Yeah.
And yet I got a better burger. Well, you know what? People weren't buying just a burger.
Yeah. And that's exactly
if they were. How many restaurant owners out there and how many startup companies out there will have better software and won't make it?
Yeah.
A lot.
Oh, yeah. A lot. Yeah.
How many? I mean, I can show you restaurants that have the best food by far, and they're long gone.
Yeah.
Because they don't realize what they're selling, and they also don't realize how they're pricing.
Right.
Because there's a whole pricing piece. They also don't realize, and this is a major portion of the book, about margins. Their accountant said to them that they have to run the lowest percentage food costs.
Right.
Well, I don't work off of percentage food cost, and I've got a lot of consulting background and personal background owning restaurants. I work off of what's called penny profit, not percentage profit.
Huh.
And what penny profit, I'll give you a perfect example of that.
Yeah.
If you could sell, I was working with a company. I'm going to make up the numbers.
Right.
That's a ski area that you mentioned earlier. I was working with them, and just let's going to make up numbers just to make the example easy.
Right.
They sell a 2 ounce small fry.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and it cost for $1. It cost them a quarter.
Right.
They've got 25% food cost, which is a good number. That's low.
Yeah.
Okay. Then they double the size. They give you 4 ounces.
Right.
But they don't double the price.
Yeah.
Because people expect to pay less for a large fry.
Right.
So they charge $1.75 for a large fry.
Yeah.
Now you realize what happened. Their percentage of food cost went way up.
Right.
Because it's no longer a 25. Now it's 50 over 175. It's like a 30-something percent food.
Right.
So I walk into the skier and they say, how come we're not selling large fries?
Yeah.
You're doing everything you can not to sell them. And the restaurant manager says they bonus me on having low food costs by percentages.
Right.
So every time somebody buys a large fry, I lose a bonus.
Right.
So you know what? I go, but look at the owner. Every time that guy buys a large fry, that the customer's happier. Start there.
Yeah, there you
go. And he's
go.
making an additional 50 cents.
Yeah.
Right? Because it cost him an extra quarter. He's charging an extra 75.
Right.
At the end of the day, we were selling thousands of fries. If you put thousands times 50 cents,
it adds up.
That's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money.
But guess what? The accountant's going, hey, Pete, though, my percentage of food cost is going up.
Right.
And I will tell you that if there's 10 restaurant people listening to this podcast, 11 of them are worrying about percentage cost.
Right.
No one's thinking about penny profit. And it works in every industry.
That's amazing.
It works in every industry. I mean, for example, if you were going to do a half an hour podcast and you were going to charge somebody $250,
Right.
and you were going to do an hour podcast and you were going to charge them $400,
Right.
your percentage cost is up.
Yeah.
However, you're going to put another $150 in your pocket,
Which makes a big difference.
And he's going to be happier, or she's
Right.
going to be happier on the
Right.
podcast.
Right.
But your accountant doesn't know how to deal with that, because then you go, what the heck happened here?
Yeah.
William, your cost of broadcast just went up.
Right.
One of the references in the book is that unless you can find a bank where you can go deposit percentages, I'm not sure I'm with you.
Yeah. Well,
So
and
you get a sense of what the book is about.
yeah,
It's about
and that
making
makes
you go,
a lot of sense. Like that's like the perfect saying. Unless you can find a bank that deposits percentages, focus on the money.
focus on the money.
Yeah.
There's one of the chapters in the book, and again, I'm anxious for the book to get me an opportunity to work with more people.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
I wrote the book for a bunch of reasons, but I would like to work with more companies.
Oh, really?
Because that's really what gets me excited. That's
Yeah.
really, that's what gets me excited, to be able to walk into a restaurant and have them go, holy mackerel! We increased the bottom line of this skier at 30% profitability in a year it snowed less.
Right.
Their overall ski volume went down, and their food profit, not percentage of profit, they made 30% more money with less customers.
That's a win.
And because we applied things that nobody really understands.
Right.
And so when you start taking a look at applying these kinds of things, the world changes.
Yeah.
And unless you shift your mind that way, it doesn't change.
Yeah.
And most people just, they've followed these tenets.
Right.
Just
blind.
Being busy is good.
Yeah.
For example, people do pro formas based on what are called ideal costs.
Right.
But in reality, you have real costs.
Yeah. 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 Exactly.
And there is software out there that can teach you how to learn the gap between your ideal and real cost. People don't even know what I'm talking about.
Right.
They have no idea what I'm talking about. So when you get to the book and you're seeing things about that, there's a whole segment of the book. I'm telling you what I know, and what really is at my core is people are convinced that if I sell one product, if I sell 5 products, I'll make more money.
Oh, yeah.
And if I sell 10 products, I'll make a lot more money.
Right.
And in reality, the narrower you are, in most cases, the wider you get in sales.
Oh, wow.
That's counterintuitive to most people.
Yeah. So having a simpler menu actually is more profitable than having a wider menu with everything on it.
Yeah, there's one of my favorite chapters in the book is the comparison between McDonald's and Raising Cane's.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And when you read that one, you'll see
that.
exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah, there's other things. So much of it is everybody's saying now, let's be careful here. Let's play this safe.
Right.
Well, let's not go too drastic. Well, in today's world, I saw Peter Lynch speak one time. Was it Peter Lynch? I have to think about who it was, but it was a very famous business a strategist. And he said, if it isn't broken, break it.
Ah, funny. Wow.
Meaning, if you've got a company, and there's references in the book to all of this.
Yeah.
If you've got a company, okay, and you're afraid to do it differently,
right?
Because you're just in what's called a slow death, really.
Oh, wow.
Because the guy across the street is going to do it differently.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so if you got a chance to look at it differently, you better be the first one looking at it differently.
Right.
Not waiting for him, because you got the customers.
Right.
But no one has the guts, because we've been taught along the way to play it safe. Well, in today's environment, you can't play it safe.
Yeah. I mean, I guess, unfortunately, we've all kind of gotten into this idea of, set it and forget it. If I get something going, just set it, leave it alone, don't mess with it kind of stuff, Yeah,
and that was pretty good.
Yeah.
But think about the things that, I remember when all of a sudden, just think about where we are right now.
Right.
Where we were a year ago, if you and I were having this podcast.
Oh, yeah.
The things we're doing today that we weren't doing a year ago.
Right.
But again, there's a fine line. Like, you now have drive-throughs where you can speak to an AI-aided person to take your order.
Yeah.
Well, the first thing if you were in fast food like I've been, and you've been on all the committees, and
Yeah.
The first thing you learn is that you can talk about what color the menu board should be, or should a Whopper be $1.99 or $2.09.
Yeah.
First thing somebody wants at the drive-thru is the food they ordered.
Right. Exactly.
And 75% of the time is a good number in some drive-thrus.
Right.
Think about that.
Yeah.
One in every 4 people go home without their food. I mean, and they give you their cash.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So the first question is an AI-driven drive-through assistant better or worse?
Right.
Well, let's start out with the first thing. What gets me my food?
Yeah. What gives me a better quality return on what I tell them, you know?
Yes. And if AI happens to do that,
it's a win.
Great.
Yeah.
But if we actually treated our employees a little differently,
yeah,
we probably would get a higher level than 75%.
Right.
Because part of the book we talk about, we go over how to teach you how to change the priority of where your employees are.
Right.
And there is some of the quotes in the book are just incredible. One of them was, why is customer service a department?
Yeah. Yeah.
Think about that.
Yeah, that's funny, right?
Why isn't it the company?
Yeah, exactly. Well, and you know what I've experienced is like whenever anything becomes a department, that tells everybody unconsciously that I don't have to do this anymore. Somebody else is responsible for it.
That's exactly right. That person answers the phone.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't have to answer the phone.
Right.
And if that person doesn't answer the phone, it's not my problem.
Not my problem, yeah.
Except if enough people don't join the chamber, there's no phone to answer.
Yeah, exactly.
So the question is, who did you put first?
Right.
And so, there's so many places that I'm asking you to shift your mind.
Right.
Those of us who remember Field of Dreams,
Mm-hmm.
You saw Field of Dreams.
Yeah.
If you build it, they will come. I've helped a lot of marketing. I've got taglines that I've written. The skiers taglines I wrote for them because I ended up running the marketing department too. Was 35 years later, they're still using stuff.
That's
cool.
I've
got stuff from a year ago that I've given to people they're still using. But one of the things you'll learn in if you build it, they will come.
Nice.
Well, let me tell you, for business, if one thing you and I both know with our experience, if you build it, they don't come.
Right.
They don't come.
Yeah.
You got to give them a reason to come.
You got to have value there for them. Yeah.
And you got to go get them along the way.
Yeah.
And like you talked about, you got to lead them, and you got to lead them to the right product for them.
Yes.
To your point earlier, if they don't buy the right product for them, they don't come back.
They don't come
back.
And
speaking of not coming back, one of the chapters is on paying more attention to retention.
Yeah. Exactly.
Most companies are built about finding new customers.
Yeah. And they forget about, the phone companies are notorious for this. It's like they'll do all these things to try to attract new customers, great rates. And then the old customer's like, hey, how come I don't get those great rates? I've been here 15 years.
I have been. And they tell you.
Yeah.
Right on it says only for new customers.
Yeah.
And then they wonder why people just keep jumping from one to the other.
One to another, right. Yeah. Yeah.
And I can't tell you the number of companies I've consulted for where they don't bonus a salesperson for retaining a customer.
Right.
It's six times as the industry standard, 6 times more expensive to find a customer than to keep a customer.
Right. Yeah.
So I think we got a little money in there to bonus somebody.
Yeah, I think so. That makes a lot of sense.
So I could go through tons of these, but you can see.
Yeah, this is amazing.
The kind of thinking that I am asking you to engage in.
Right.
And if you want to be viable as a startup, or if you want to lift your profits, you can run around and be busy, and you can run around and do more of the same.
Right.
And everybody goes, well, technology is going to make everybody equal now going forward. That's the furthest thing from the truth.
That's not true.
Those who know how to use technology
are
going to crush those people who are kind of limping their way into technology.
Right.
If you're not going to embrace something that's going to take your company to the next level, I don't mean kind of leak your way into it. I mean, embrace it.
Right.
The guy next door who's embracing it is going to eat your lunch.
Yeah. So
and
that makes a lot of sense. So I've got to ask now, you've thrown out a lot of great stuff. What's a good nugget for like the entrepreneurs out there in the Charleston area that will kind of resonate with them and help them out, maybe take some of these uncomfortable type risks that you're talking about.
Well, first of all, to speak to the group that is primarily focused on listening to this, the startup group, the first thing is to look at your company. I mean, for example, I'm dealing with some of these new startups. They don't even name the company with their potential customer in mind. They name it because they like their dog, or they grew up on a certain street, or they come up with initials. Make yourself memorable, number one. Go out on a limb and give yourself a name that gets somebody to pay attention. And number two, as a startup, do your research, and it doesn't count that you ask your brother. Do your research. Get out there. There are research companies, but there's research that you can do. I mean, some of the most successful people I've known, they've just sat across the street from a laundromat and counted the number of people who went in the laundromat. Don't just guess that we need another laundromat. Do your work. I mean, if that laundromat's not busy,
why put another one?
And if it is busy, figure out how to do it better. Because you want some of their customers. So the biggest thing I can say to everybody is two things. One is start with the customer. And end with the customer. And in the middle, be with the customer. So because when I was running the hockey team in a town, we were the only AAA sports team in America that had no highlights on TV because we were in another person's market. So we had no highlights. Nobody knew. And as a result, everything that had ever come to that town had failed. Well, we realized that we weren't selling hockey. We were selling family entertainment. We were selling excitement. We were selling team pride. We were a town pride. And so everything we did was, is the customer going to have fun being here? And the number one group that came to our games were women and kids. They came to, everybody goes, how are women and kids coming to hockey games? Because we understood what we were selling. So you've got to really understand, what is your product doing? Are you Apple and you're selling tomorrow? Are you Disney and you're selling magic? Are you Buc-ee's and you're selling an Oasis? Or are you just selling software? Well, if you're selling software, the software ought to be, because when William gets it, he's a lot happier.
Yeah, you're selling
happiness.
happiness.
William's not a lot happier. And peace of mind. And the fact that William could never get his stuff to his accountant on time. And now he can.
Exactly.
And now he can go home and have a Saturday off. And his wife isn't angry with him because he's got to work every Saturday because he can't get the work done in time. If you could take that away, and William's wife could be happier, William's going to be happier.
Exactly.
That's what you're selling. So to me, the biggest advice I could give everybody is to think differently and to understand that you can't become more profitable just by doing more. Selling more small fries
doesn't help you.
It helps you, but you're crawling. And your customer's less satisfied. Selling more large fries. They're happier, and you're making more percentages. More pennies. But guess who's unhappy? Your accountant. But again, it's up to you then to train your accountant. And explain to them. And explain to them, in the old days when I made, I sold only small fries, I made this. Now I make this. And again, you realize that most people, if given that guy had his choice, he would have made a large fry $1, and he would have made a small fry $1, a large fry $2. Because that would have given him the right profit. But that wouldn't have been smart for a customer. Customers going, I'm buying something twice as big. I got to pay the same price.
No, that's not a win.
Not a customer win. But there are companies doing that out there because that's a spreadsheet win.
And that's exactly it.
You're not, so to kind of close this down, you're not operating for your accountant. You're not operating for your ego. You are operating there for one reason, and that is because you're going to make your customer say, I'm going back for more. And you know what? If your employee is not as excited about your customer as you are, you're already in the weeds. Because your customer is going to interact more with your employee than he is with you. So you can feel really good. But if your employee doesn't share your excitement. So a large portion of the book is how to change the way you look at your employees. So there's a lot in the book, obviously. It's 59 chapters, I think. It's
wow.
And I think it's that. Who knows? I think it's 59. It could be 54. It's kind of funny. I'd have to pull the book up. That being said, though, the really most important thing about it is you've got this, but only if you start with two premises. One is it's not about you.
Right.
And two is if you're not going to think differently and you're just going to be busier and do more, you're probably going to be busier on your way to doing less.
Yeah.
Or at least earning less.
Yeah. Yeah. You're probably going to be having to start a different business here soon.
Yes. Yes. And unfortunately, you're probably, since you failed in the first one, you're probably going to make the same mistakes again.
Yeah.
And think it's about you.
Yeah.
So anyway, this has been fun. I hope it's helped startups. And anyone who would like to get a copy of the book, it's on Amazon Books. It's on Apple Books. It's available in Kindle or paperback.
Nice.
If anybody would like to talk about working with me, or having me help them, that would be my pleasure. I am on LinkedIn. And so, this was great.
I appreciate it.
And your experience to see and hear you react, it's nice to know that it resonates because so far that's been the reaction of every reader I've had.
Yeah.
And the fact that in a one-on-one, and I'm going to ask you the last question. Does it make you feel uncomfortable or more motivated or a little both?
I mean, it's like, it really, I will say it kind of resonates in that it gets to this issue of, as you're starting a business up, you end up doing lots of stuff. And so, and if you're not doing something, if you're not being busy, you don't feel like you're making progress. And so it kind of, in a sense, it's uncomfortable because it's like, okay, I need to be smarter about the stuff I need to do versus just doing stuff. And the funny part about that, William, is that it's even more important for an existing business. Right.
Because an existing business has a base.
Yeah.
Imagine if they could make that base bigger,
right,
and more profitable.
Right. That's crazy.
I mean, but again, most people are just going, to your point, they're just going to get busier.
Right.
What if we got smarter?
Right.
What if we thought differently?
Yeah.
What if you shifted your mind? If you shift your mind, I'm telling you, you're going to lift your profits. You are. And if you're a startup and you shift your mind, you're going to be much more viable.
Yeah.
There's so many stories that include Commissioner Stern. There's stories about my Burger King times. There's stories about McDonald's versus Raising Cane's. There's a million anecdotal stories in the thing. It touches on franchising. Most important thing, I hope, is that the fact that I've learned so many of these things through my successes.
Right.
But I've probably learned more of them through the things that I didn't do well, or I watched my clients not do well.
Right.
And I'll leave you with one last comment, because this is so fun. And I really appreciate the time. I will talk to all these startups, and I've got a buddy of mine who's a master in helping raise money. I've worked on a lot in helping companies raise money.
Yeah.
And we put together the 21 questions an investor wants addressed when you ask them to raise money, when you build your deck.
Yeah.
And I'll hand it to a startup, and they'll go, I don't think I have any reason to answer number 8, number 12, and number 18.
Right.
You're laughing because you get it. They don't get it.
Yeah.
I don't know that you have any, this isn't, you don't have it figured out.
Yeah.
The customer in this case is your investor.
Right.
And he's telling you the only thing he's going to buy. And you're telling him, no, thank you. I don't want to sell it to you.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, oh, you don't need to know that. It's like, he just told you what he wants to know. It's like, well, just answer the question.
and like, she's going to give you the money.
Right.
If you don't want to answer the question she asked. But
right,
the mere fact that it doesn't dawn on you.
Yeah.
Is the mind shift I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Let it dawn on you. When your investor's your customer, pay attention.
Yeah.
When your customer's the customer, pay attention.
Yeah.
When your employee is speaking to you, pay attention. Because, if you got your ears closed, your chances of succeeding are a lot less.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that is super valuable information, Peter. This has been just amazing. I really appreciate all of this.
Well, I really appreciate the opportunity, and I thank you, and I thank Toby and the gang that are working hard at Charleston Startups, and that you do a marvelous job in making your guests feel comfortable.
Well, I'm glad you felt comfortable. I'm glad you were able to share all this information. You'll have to come on again, and we'll do some more on this, because it sounds like there's lots of stuff in the book. Maybe we'll pick a particular chapter or something, and we'll hit that sometime.
And by now, the book and all will be more visible on my LinkedIn. So
Okay.
it's Peter Ricciardi, and it's Ricciardi.
Yep.
And they did a pretty good job.
Yeah.
You know, I was impressed. You obviously have spent a little time in Italy. Good pronunciation.
I'm trying. I know how to say a few Italian words, but it comes back to you. The C and I, it kind of thing. The ch is like, oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah, I remember how that works.
My mom might have made you an honorary Italian if she was still
that'd
with
be
us.
very kind, very kind.
Well,
Well,
I come from a family of my mom and dad were both pharmacists. And they both own their own companies, so my
nice.
entrepreneurship goes back.
It's built into you.
This is great. Thank
you so much. That's a wrap for this episode of the Lowcountry Revolutionaries. Thanks for joining us as we celebrate the fearless entrepreneurs making wave in Charleston's Chucktown Startups community. I'm Bill Bellot, and it's been an honor to share these inspiring stories with you. If you enjoyed this episode, subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who needs a spark of low country innovation. Until next time, keep pushing the boundaries of what's possible.